and welcome to this week's edition of Midlife Real Life, the online video chat show. I'm Kerry Wilden and I'm the founder of the Fab After 50 website and also the Midlife MOT online program. And I'm delighted to have with me today both our regular panelists, Maggie, who's a stylist and brand consultant. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, everybody.
And also Jo Jewett, who's a makeup artist to many celebrities in the past. Hi, Jo.
Hello, everybody.
And we're so happy to have with us today Nayna McIntosh, who is the founder and CEO of Hope Fashion. We're going to be talking all things style over 50. Hi, Nayna, and welcome to Midlife Chat Show.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here.
So, Nayna, can I just start off by asking you, do you think that women in midlife, or women over 50 in particular, really want anything different from the clothes that they wear to the younger generations?
I think my personal view on that would be, I think women who are older are looking for, I think cut is really important. The quality of fabric is really important. I think she wants to be comfortable. And my belief is that if a woman is comfortable, she's confident. And if she's confident, she moves differently, is how I see it. And I also think that, I suppose, she may well be aware of trends and may have a desire to be on trends, but she's not slavish to fashion. I mean, what she's looking for is, how can this work for me in a way that's appropriate for the age I am today, or the age I feel, frankly. Yeah, so I don't think it's about wanting to look like my 17-year-old daughter. In fact, I take it as a compliment, and she's nicking things out of my wardrobe, frankly. I do think it's actually about the quality of the fabric, the quality of the cut, and how it makes me feel.
I think that's really interesting, Nayna, because I was going to say to you, what do you think is the secret for women over a certain age in terms of style? And, that lovely Yorkshire expression, not wanting to look like mutton, which was one that my mum always used to use. And, you've answered it partially by saying, it is about cut and it's about quality. What are the sort of commonest issues that women come to you with in terms of finding clothes at this age?
A couple of things I'd say. The first is, it's getting to understand your body as you get older. I've been in fashion for well over 30 years. And when I got to 51, 52, mid-menopause, I guess, I just felt that things I used to wear very comfortably for the previous 3 decades were just no longer working on me, on my body, because my body shape was changing as a result of getting older and being menopausal. And I really had to think about how I was going to address this. So I went from being able to dress fairly effortlessly in terms of putting things together, to trying to work out why there were some days when I'd look in the mirror and think, God, that looks dreadful. And other days when I'd look in the mirror and think, you've nailed it today, you've got it. And one of the things I learned at the beginning of Hope that was really powerful was when we talked about something called the Defying Proportion. And anybody who has done any kind of qualification in design or art, architecture, will know what that is immediately. And it's actually about the perfect ratio of thirds. And very loosely, or very simply put, it's, if you can imagine your body is in thirds. So, you kind of go from your shoulders to your waist to your knees, and your knees to your feet. And if you dress your body in thirds, so 1/3 and 2/3, or 2/3 and 1/3, it makes you look slimmer. It makes you look taller. And I think a mistake a lot of women make is if they dress their bodies in what I would call half and half.
Right.
And what the effect of that is, it actually almost squashes you down and makes you go shorter and wider. And when I understood that, and this whole philosophy can be shown to be applied to the painting of the Mona Lisa, you know, any great piece of architecture in the world fits to the divine proportion. And when you understand that as a principle, I thought about it, and I thought, they're the days when I look in the mirror and think, yeah, you've nailed it, because I've got my proportions right. And that is, for me, one of the most important things, Maggie, to answer your question. It's about quality, it's a fabric, it's about cut, but it's also about putting pieces together in the correct proportion. And, you know, and I've been in the industry for years. I mean, we have lots of women who will come and talk to us and say, who genuinely don't know how to put an outfit together. No. And when you start to then talk about getting the proportion right, that adds a whole nother layer of complexity. But genuinely, for me, they're the most important things: the quality of the fabric, the quality of the cut, and dressing in the right proportion.
Well, that's really interesting. And also, what about this this business of you were quite right earlier on about our best bits change over the years, and being honest. And I think as women, sometimes we're so self-deprecating. I find quite often that and you must find this with your clients, they look great in something, but they can only see sort of the bad bits, and they haven't appreciated that, okay, they might have put on a bit of weight around the waist, but actually, you know, they've still got great legs or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's appreciating our best bits, really, and just keeping a bit of track of them as well.
Keeping a bit of what? Sorry.
Track of them, that our best bits change.
It's really interesting to say that, because when I was putting the concept of hope together, which was over 5 years ago, I gathered a group of what I called my 17 nearest and dearest, which was a mix of family, friends, colleagues, people in the industry, to share the concept with them, which was everything from the brand name to its identity, what I thought the values should be. And as one of as the ice warmer on the day, we asked them to draw a picture of themselves. And we wanted them to highlight the bits that they still loved about themselves and the bits that they didn't. And as you could, and to be fair, it was actually, we had 2 blokes in the room, and the rest were all women. And, you know, so my husband Harvey was in there, and he immediately talked about the things he hated about getting older were the fact that his eyes obviously needed help with glasses, or his teeth were disintegrating, whatever. Very practical. Whereas the women immediately zoned into the stuff they didn't like about themselves. And there was one of my favourite pictures of the day was one that a friend of mine called Debs did. And the only thing that she liked about herself were her ankles and her wrists. And I said, well, why is that? And she said, well, they're the only bits that are still skinny.
Yeah.
And
extraordinary.
Women talked
I can relate to that.
but so many of the women talked about all the things they didn't like or were uncomfortable, and it usually was either their tummies, the tops of their arms, their knees was a good one. And yet, when you actually, exactly to your point, Maggie, when you actually then start to talk about the things that are really good, and that became a philosophy of hope, is how do we encourage women to disguise the bits that they are no longer feeling very confident about, but enhance the bits that still make them feel fabulous. And personally, I spend my life trying to think about ways to cover my middle, because I hate my tummy. But even at 5 foot nothing, I've got reasonable legs. So I will get my legs out if I need to boost my confidence.
That's interesting, because that's exactly my experience with my clients. 85% of the women, when I say, which parts of your body do you like best, would say, oh, I don't know, I don't really like any of it, or I've never really thought about it. And then when you say, which do you like least, you could be there till the next week.
Correct. You know? Yeah, definitely.
But close transformational, aren't they?
In my view, fashion can be seen to be a bit frivolous. You know, and particularly at the kind of era that we find ourselves living in at the moment, which I'm sure we'll come back to. But I passionately believe that clothes are inherent to your confidence and how you feel about yourself, and therefore they're not frivolous. They're really important.
Thank you.
Well,
Your turn,
like to say that it's actually quite interesting listening to you, because it's more or less exactly what I talk about when I'm talking about makeup, and it's exactly the same thing. It's the confidence that really comes along, and the fact that, as you're just saying, you know, the trends that we used to wear when we were 20, you can't wear when you're 50, you know, and those are the things that really are important about choosing the right outfit. But it'd be interesting to see what you think about how we move away from that. And because with me, obviously, it's the makeup head. A lot of women wear the same makeup that they wore 20 years ago, and they tend to age themselves straight away just with that, you know, the teal eyeshadow and the orange blusher and the fuchsia lipstick. But I think the thing applies exactly the same way with you know, the way you dress.
Yeah.
And how would you kind of steer somebody away from that, you know, give them the confidence to change? And especially for plus size ladies. Let's hear it for the big girls.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the things that we've done differently through this pandemic is having a virtual coffee morning with we invite our customers. And the feedback, and I will get to answer the question specifically. The feedback is what they really like more than anything. And as part of that, I have a model who lives locally, and as we've worked with for 2 or 3 years now, who will come in and put the clothes on, and the immediate feedback is how much they enjoy seeing the product on a body, rather than and what they deem to be a real body as opposed to a professional model in a fashion shoot scenario. Today, interestingly, we used a second model. So Susanna's classic model proportion, 5'8", size 10. And today we used another model who was called Liz, 5'4", and in her words, not mine. Oh, and a size 14 to 16. And in her words, not mine, I've got huge boobs and a big bottom. I mean, that's how she introduced herself.
Brilliant.
And but frankly, she's very typical of this customer, this genre, shall we say. And what we did today is take the same outfit and put it onto both women. So one's tall and slim, one's petite, shall we say, and definitely curvy. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's an idea. Exactly the same outfit, different shoes potentially, different height of shoes. Thank you. So how do you steer people away from that, I think was the question. Honestly, I think it's an education, and the best way to do it is through the work that Maggie does, or the work that we do here. So my best days are when, you know, out of lockdown, we can invite women here to come and work with the collection and put things on that they would never have dreamt of, and probably would never have touched in a store, but actually help them with that whole layering piece. And, you know, you can wear this with this. You know, one of the most successful piece of comms we ever do is if we say, take 6 pieces or 6 items and here's 12 outfits. So making the numbers up as I go along, but the principle of actually demonstrating how to put an outfit together. And you're absolutely right, is pushing them out of their comfort zone. And you can see women come in kind of wearing, you know, slacks with a print blouse, because that's how they've always dressed, or more importantly, they think that's how they ought to dress. And then you put the right proportion in a completely mix of outfits, and you genuinely can sometimes see themselves looking in the mirror as if to say, who's that? You know, they almost don't recognise themselves.
Great.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Yeah, great. I think it's difficult to get into this kind of over 50. We seem to get into this fashion fallout, you know, where we feel that we can't wear certain outfits. And I think it's really important to allow people to wear something that is classic, but still is fashionable, you know, still quite trendy, because I think that's the problem. We all put ourselves in a box.
I think there's two things I'd say. I think because there was all that nonsense recently when, I can't remember which personality it was, wore a pair of leather trousers. And, you know, how can she be wearing leather trousers? So again.
Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, right. Well, I was thinking it was a British one. I mean, you know, when Theresa May was interviewed, and when she first became Prime Minister, she was interviewed in a pair of leather trousers, if you remember. There was lots of pushback that was, should she be wearing leather trousers? Frankly, my view is the most important thing as you get older is working out what suits your body.
Yeah.
And once you've got that, you can wear what the hell you like as long as you're working to those principles.
I was going to say, it's a practical tip for our viewers, because your clothes by and large are sold online. Lots of our viewers, if they wanted to buy Hope Fashion, would be buying Hope Fashion online. And in terms of what you just said, I guess to reiterate that and to just make a suggestion is that when one orders something, if you order something and you try it on, and your instant reaction is, oh no, I've never worn anything like this before, I can't wear this. I always say to clients, well, okay, and then I'll just engage them in a bit of conversation. And then 2 or 3 minutes later, they'll turn back to the mirror and they'll go, oh, actually, you know, this looks quite nice. So I guess what I would say, maybe reiterating what you said, is that when you order things, you know, don't be scared to order outside your comfort zone, because you can always send back. But also when you try on, do just give yourself a little bit of time to get used to a look that might be slightly different. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. And also, I mean, when we first launched the brand, my dream was to have 50% of the revenue coming through online, obviously, but the other half I wanted to come through what I called pop-ups at home. So, you know, kind of think Stella and Dots, but for fashion, not for jewellery. Because for me, and what I was harking back to, is some of my best retail experiences as a consumer, not a retailer, are some of the independent boutiques up and down in market towns. There's usually one amazing store that's got lovely brands in there. Not just the fact that they've done the edit and have put a collection together to make sure everything works with everything and there's outfits, but more importantly, there's usually an amazing salesperson in the store, and quite often it's the owner, frankly. Who has a vested interest in looking after you, and just being able to give that personal selling service or personal service, which I think is so lacking on the high street, as it is. Another story. But that's what I wanted, and we trialled this with kind of inviting a group of friends in their home, usually with a couple of glasses of Prosecco, a whole wardrobe of clothes for women to try on in their sizes. And actually, when they say, does my bum look big in this, they've got a mate next to them who might just turn around and say, yeah, it does actually. Or they might say, you look amazing. So this whole piece of being pushed out your comfort zone is quite hard to do by yourself. I think as women, because we are very good at putting ourselves down rather than building ourselves up, it's the point around just having somebody around you to say, honestly, you look amazing, don't even think about it, or actually, no, that doesn't work. And it works both ways, Maggie, I guess is what I was going to say.
Thank you. But with the current situation with the pandemic, though, I mean, there are a lot of women who perhaps aren't used to shopping online, are used to going into a shop, whether it's, and I love the smaller stores, and that's how I've tended to shop for the last 30 years. But you've got women who are used to going either to their favourite store or their favourite high street, environment, and now they're not going to be able to really rifle through racks or try on clothes. So it's going to be a very different experience. So, I mean, how do you think that's going to work? And now, as people having to perhaps shop online for the first time, how are they going to have the confidence to do that, not really knowing where to start?
I think it's a really great question, and I'll give you, I guess, my personal perspective on this. As a very, very small brand, as soon as as soon as it became clear the impact of COVID-19, which I think 16th of March, our sales just went off a cliff because people concentrated on buying, food, frankly, toilet rolls, whatever it was, but more important things than fashion. And I, a week later, made the hardest decision I've made since I set the business up, which was to furlough the entire team. And I then had to decide whether the business stood a chance of surviving, or were we just going to have to close the business down? I mean, these are tough decisions. And I decided that the only way we were going to do this was if I ran the business pretty much single-handedly. So, and I share all that, not because it's a sob story, but now what is happening is if a customer emails, if she rings up, guess what? It's me that's answering the phone. And I am now having the most wonderful relationship. I mean, customers who are texting me, getting in touch with me on WhatsApp, in addition to emailing and calling. But in answer to how should women go about shopping online if they're unused to it? Get to know the brand. The first thing I do when I go onto a new brand is click the About Us tab, because I want to know what this brand stands for, who's behind it, what are their values. So I would do a bit of research on the brand in the first instance. Now, it might be that you know the brand, fine. Don't be afraid. The second thing I do is read their reviews. So are they on Trustpilot or any other kind of community feedback? That tells you an awful lot about how the brand treats their customers. If you're getting specifically into wanting to purchase something, look at the product reviews. What are customers saying about that garment? And that will inform you a great deal. And last but not least, pick the phone up and speak to customer services. Ask the question, how are you being dealt with? And then you just really, I think, you just have to plunge for it and go for it and order it. And most brands have a very, very favourable returns period. I think lots of brands have extended to 90 days in the current period. Order 2 or 3 things and just see what the service is like. How quickly does the parcel come? What were the communications like in that journey? And send something back and see how respectfully your return is treated.
And in terms at the moment, if somebody tries something on and sends it back, have you had to change how you deal with that return as well? Because you don't know who's touched it, do you?
No, and the government guidance on that is that you should leave it hanging for 48 hours before you put it back into stock, and that's exactly what we do. So what is going to happen when the high street opens up on the 15th of June? I'll be really interested to see how clothing retailers cope.
Yeah. Because I've been reading bits today about where in other countries they have opened up, and it seems to be quite mixed. I mean, you've got some countries that can keep the change rooms open, others they can't. Others have said it's not a very pleasurable experience. You've got somebody with a loud hailer saying keep apart, keep apart. So it kind of destroys that whole shopping with a friend atmosphere, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, it's funny enough. I mean, my 30 plus years experience in retail is all in bricks and mortar. So I knew chuff all about a website, how to run a website when we set the business up. The only thing I was really clear about is I wasn't looking to set up a chain of shops. I think a lot of people assumed I'd be wanting to set up 20 stores or something. And no, for me, it had to be about being online. I really wouldn't like to be running a business at the moment that was solely reliant on bricks and mortar retail.
No.
It is interesting, isn't it? I wonder whether some of these smaller boutiques actually may win out slightly in that they can maybe offer an appointment system or something like that, where the department stores won't be able to do that. And it may well be how wonderful would that be, that it may be a step in the right direction for reboosting our high streets.
Our small market town independent stores, absolutely, Margaret. We're in a department store in Jersey called De Grucci.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And they opened up, I think 3 weeks ago. And it's been really interesting. And this is a beautiful store. I mean, we wouldn't be in it if it didn't feel gorgeous. And their ground floor, like most, and it's an independent department store, I should also add. Their ground floor is the beauty hall, basically, with footwear and accessories from memory. And in their first 2 weeks of opening, they're really struggling to get people up onto the first floor to women's fashion. Just not interested. They're going in onto the ground floor and they're buying beauty, but it's really tough to get them to buy fashion.
Well, I'm kind of launching online with a makeup range very soon, within the next couple of weeks. But the biggest issue is that, again, I don't know how this affects the clothing, department stores generally. But with makeup, you can't use the testers. Everything's got to be shut down because you literally cannot touch anything. You can go in and look, but you cannot touch anything. And I think like you, I'm 61 years old. I didn't ever think that my business would be online. But I think generally that's the way it's going to be. And people are going to be very careful about what they spend the money on, which is key. And the fact that they can actually return to you is a great thing. And the fact that they can get advice, because I think we've got a lot of synergies going on here. I think it's the advice that people want. They don't want to buy anything that they're going to wear once and have to, throw away. The other thing that I was going to ask you about, because again, as a plus size, the average size of a woman in the UK is 16. Yet I go into really fabulous shops.
Yeah.
And you can see them just laughing. I also take a size 9.5 in shoe, which is really funny when you go and try to buy a pair of shoes, I can tell you.
That must be
in a 9.5. I pick the daintiest shoes that you can find in a department store and say, can I have these in a 9.5, please? And they go, no. My God. But it is kind of important that, that we are still, I'm a size 20 on some things. We were talking about it the other week, weren't we, girls? So the different sizes. But it'd be interesting to know how you address somebody, who's not a size 14.
Well, it's a great question, Jo. Thanks for asking, because when the first slide I did on my meeting of mind session 5 years ago was one on values and what was this brand going to be about, and the sorts of things I talked about, which might sound really soft, but it was about family, it was about love, authenticity and integrity, and actually inclusive, and which probably doesn't come as a huge surprise given I'm black, but it was also for me about size. So to your point, Jo, there are so many fashion brands who don't go beyond a size 14.
I know this thing.
And some even middle of the road brands don't do much over a size 16.
I know this thing.
And to your point, for women of this age group, the average, as you quite rightly say, dress size is somewhere between a 14 and a 16. So the first thing to say was that I was insistent that we took the size up to at least a size 20. So we cater for a size 8 to 20. And then the fit of our garments is fairly, certainly in lots of instances, is quite loose and forgiving. So we can do some things in what we call dual sizes, and which isn't unusual. The fashion industry often do this, but they call it a small, a medium, a large, and an extra large.
And who wants to be extra large?
I am that gorgeous.
But there aren't many women I know who are comfortable saying, have you got this in an extra large? It's a bit like your 9.5.
I don't care. I don't care. I just want something that fits and looks nice.
Well, but lots of women do care, Jo, and I think that's your confidence, which is brilliant. So what we do is that we refer to, we go from an 8 to a 20, and we have what we call a super slim, which is a size 8. We have then and then we have a slim, which is a 10 to 12. We have a curvy, 14 to 16. And we have a super curvy, 18 to 20. And it might seem a really small point, but there is something for some women, anyway, psychologically or less.
I like super curvy.
Yeah.
It's about language.
I am super curvy and proud.
It makes me sound like I'm Superman or Superwoman, as opposed to, can I have this in an extra large?
Yeah.
So the whole language around it was really important for us, and that's how we came about. So, and the final point I wanted to make is there was something you said about the personal side of things, and this is a real example. And this is one of the benefits of my being in the warehouse at the moment. There was a customer order I was processing, and this lady had ordered two times the same style, colour and size, and I thought, and she was a new customer, so I thought it was a bit odd. So I gave her a ring, and I just said, look, just checking it, and she had made a mistake, and she just she's actually, now I've got you, can I just blah 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 blah. And I think she would be embarrassed if I told her how many orders she's placed with me in the last 5 weeks. But she's a retired lawyer, lives very close to where you are, Maggie. And what she says to me in her emails, because I now have an email from her probably about twice a week. And what I like about this, Nayna, is that I feel like I'm having a personal conversation with somebody. Yeah. And she said, but I like the fact that you can give me guidance as to whether that style will fit or not, or suit. I've never met her. All I can tell you is how tall she is, what size her boobs are, and what size her hips are. But on that basis, it's enough for me to give her guidance, because Hope isn't a suited and booted collection. It's quite soft, it's quite drapey, it's quite comfortable, frankly. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, we provide a free return service. So it's not a problem.
Perfect.
And do you think it's going to be more comfortable clothes that people are going to be, we've all been in lockdowns and maybe adjusted what we wear anyway, but do you think that's going to carry on sort of post-lockdown, where people are still going to look more for the comfort rather than the tailored look?
I think to some extent, Kerry, that may, because I think what is going to change is how people work from home. I think this is demonstrated. So many people we had a conversation last night over dinner with my husband, who has a flat up in the northwest where he works, and he's now saying to me, I don't think I need the flat, because he can honestly see himself only going up once a fortnight. So I think it's really challenging how this whole working from home piece, and if that does happen, I think it will change, to be fair, Kerry. I think people will not need, as I often refer to it, as corporate wear. The thing I really hope doesn't happen, and I'll give you an example, is that, and we talked about it in the coffee morning today, we put a collection together, a really tight collection of what I would call summer event dressing. So if you were going to Henley Regatta, it's the sort of thing you would have worn. If I was having a summer party at home, it would have. But because we're not doing that stuff, and I actually asked my customers today, is it that you hate it, or is it just because you haven't got anywhere to wear it? And 70% of them came back and said, because I have nowhere to go to wear it. So I think it will have an effect, to be quite honest with you.
No, sorry, I was just going to ask Nayna a final question from me. Do you think there is still room in the market for more fashion brands for women over 40, over 50, given that, that's the demographic that has, high disposable income? Do you think it's still an area that is somewhat neglected?
Yes is the short answer. Otherwise, I wouldn't have set up Hope. Yeah. And one of the things I said when we were putting the concept together, and I passionately believe this, is that the world needs another women's wear brand like a hole in the head. So if I was going to do this, there had to be some USPs that I would attribute to the brand that I think makes it look different to other brands out there. Because otherwise, why would you bother? This piece around using real women. Yeah, so we're very proud of our images of real women wearing our items of clothing. So I guess the short, is there room for brands specifically targeting the 40 plus market? Probably. But I think you've got to be prepared to go out there and be different, because if you're just going to be another brand, why bother?
And I think what you said there is so key, because you use the real women, because I know I've worked with brands on the website in the past, and yes, their clothes may be suitable for our age group, but you go onto their websites and the models are all stick thing 20 somethings, and then people say, well, I'm not going to look like that, and they're not. You know, so yes, they, in theory, they're marketing to this age group, but yet they haven't got the courage of their conviction by having the models in this age group, online. No,
absolutely. And honestly, this is completely way back 4 or 5 years ago. I was actually having a coffee with a non-exec director for, I think it was Country Casuals at the time, and I was talking to him as a potential investor in the business, and he said to me, what's your view on Country Casuals? And I just said, what's your target market? And he said 50 plus. I said, so why are you using 20-year-old models on the website? I said,
well done.
You have to, you have to be who you are. We don't use models. I mean, the models we use, the professional models we use, are minimum in their 40s.
Good.
They have to be, otherwise. Sorry, I could go on about it forever.
But it is a big issue. Actually, I mean, that's a major criticism I've always had from my readers, because my website's been going for 10 years now, and it's consistently a problem for women.
Same with makeup.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a smack in the teeth for our age group. Really.
It is.
And I think to think that somebody who's not completely and utterly aesthetically wonderful has no right to be glamorous. And it's just don't get me started. Don't you know what I'm like when I get started?
But I think on a purely practical level, if you're not sure how you're going to look in something, and you're in your 40s or 40 plus and you're a certain shape or whatever, seeing it on a 20-year-old size 8 is not going to sell you that item, is it? No. As a company, you'd think you'd just be inundated with returns, because when the customer puts it on, it looks shocking. And so it seems to be common sense, doesn't it? But then I guess we get into the whole realm of ageism, sizism, the whole thing about what is deemed to be attractive, and that's a whole other ball game. But it's accessibility, and I don't know if there's such a word as identifiability. When I buy something, I want to be able to identify with the person I can see wearing it.
Yeah.
Kerry, I was reading your profile, and there was something I loved about the way, why you set up your website. And it's this, and it resonated so much with me. I was 51 in a corporate career in retail, obviously. And my 50th birthday had a real impact on me, but I mean a positive one. And the way I put it is that when you do get to 50, for me anyway, when I got to 50, there is this realization that you are now more than halfway through.
Yeah,
absolutely. And therefore, you can kind of reflect on what's happened. But there was this piece for me was that actually, what is the next 25, 30, 40, as you say, potentially 50 years going to look like? And am I prepared to disappear into the background and become a wallflower? Heck no.
Brilliant.
I actually think the best years are yet to come.
Yeah. I would say, why would you be invisible when just changing your mindset means you can be fabulous?
Absolutely.
That's it, isn't it? It really is mindset.
Yeah, completely. And that's, when I read that, I just thought, that we're on the same wavelength.
And so say all of us.
Absolutely. Exactly. So talking about being visible, has everybody got their hero product with them today? So I'm going to go first then with my hero product. So I've brought with me something I've had in my wardrobe for 20 years.
Yeah. It looks like it's pink leather.
A pink leather bomber
Wow,
jacket.
that's lovely, Carrie.
And
Oh,
I have to say, it was a very indulgent purchase when I bought it. It was not inexpensive, but cost per wear, it's been 20 years.
Brilliant.
And for me, it's got a story behind it, because I bought this before I got married.
Yeah.
When I got married, my ex-husband hated it. He would not be seen in public with me if I was wearing it. So it kind of got put at the back of the wardrobe.
Yeah.
And as soon as I decided to divorce him, I wore it every day for 3 weeks.
Like Diana
It was
with
my
the
statement
option
piece.
for the
I'm thinking, no, I'm not faded into the background. Thank you very much. And here's my pink leather jacket that's going to be part of my reinvention. But it's kind of reinventing myself, but getting my old mojo back. So that's my hero style product.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Well, my hero is nothing piece. It's nothing to do with fashion and style for once. And this week I had a birthday. Not a big birthday. It's just a birthday. And I was sent this book, My Bucket List. And I was sent it by a friend of my daughter's. And she had bought it for my daughter. And obviously had heard that I thought it was great. And she sent it to me for my 68th birthday. And I thought, you know, the first base is remember that the person who gave up never does anything. And what it sort of was appealed to me about it is that, you know, I'm 68 now, but we're never too old to have a bucket list, are we? You know, and I'm going to fill it in because it's just as you say, you know, we can reinvent ourselves. We can all have goals and aspirations and things we still want to do, no matter how old we are. And the fact that she sent this to me was a real boost. And I'm very grateful for it. And I'm going to fill it in. So there you go.
Maggie.
Good go. Well, I'm kind of just harping straight back to the makeup thing, but as you were saying about Harvey with his eyesight and his teeth, I have two things here.
Yeah.
A magnifying mirror times 20 and a pair of very lovely tweezers.
Yeah.
Because believe me, girls, there is hairs after 50 growing out anywhere other than where you want them. And you need to be able to see them. And I can see that most of us here, apart from Kerry, are a little bit eyesight challenged. So you always need a times 20. Best you see it before anybody else does. That's what I think.
I've gone so far, Jo, to have one of those illuminated, magnified mirrors in my bathroom.
Okay. Yeah, you need one. There comes a time when you have to do this thing.
If you've got that, a good Sharon Stone tip, and somebody said, how did she feel about her cellulite? She said, I put pink light bulbs in my bathroom and I don't notice it.
Right, is it my turn, Kerry?
It is your turn now.
Right, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm sorry, but this is my hero product. We launched this dress on Saturday on our website.
Oh, I saw that this morning.
And this is very you, Maggie, I'm afraid.
It is very me. Don't be afraid.
It sums up what hope is.
Oh, it's got ruffles.
So, it's just got a really simple neckline, but the armhole is cut in such a way. In fact, Amanda's, can you see that? So that was me on Sunday wearing it with a large gin and tonic.
Very nice.
And is that part of the outfit? You only wear the dress if you've got gin and tonic in your hands.
But why I think this sums up hope is that it's in this wonderful soft viscose fabric. It is double lined at the top so that you get minimal transparency. You've got pockets. We love a pocket.
A pocket.
There's pockets on both sides. And the best bit is just these 4 layers of frills, which, whether you're going to, let's just think fast forward when we get out of this wretched lockdown. But when you're on holiday and you're going for dinner, this will be perfect with a pair of sliders. Equally, as my neighbour Anne said to me, I'm going to wear that for a summer wedding with a hat. And then at Christmas, you just put a velvet wrap around it put a pair of killer heels on and away you go. So I think this really sums up what my brand is about.
And Nayna, you know how I would wear that also? I would wear it with a vest underneath,
yeah,
you know, in a different colour, maybe a white vest, or I might even wear it like a pinafore with a little tight body underneath it.
Yeah.
And then when it was a bit chilly, I'd put a jumper over the top and it becomes a skirt.
Exactly. And we've got just the jumper, but I won't bore you with it. But yeah.
Can I just say though, what's interesting is you've got, though it's kind of strappy, they're quite wide, so you can still wear a bra with it, because that's another complaint we get. There's a lot of the things that people say that will suit women over 40, women over 50, over 60. The straps are too narrow and you can't wear a decent bra.
And to the point I made earlier, you know, when we put the collection together, it isn't just about, you know, tops and bottoms. It's actually taking those things into consideration. So respecting that she'll probably want to wear a bra, therefore make the straps wide enough to cover the average bra strap. Most women, myself included, hate under my arms here as I get older. So trying to get the cut right so as that it's flattering still. This was that dress that I showed you earlier being worn with a jumper on top of it, which is amazing.
Lovely.
So it just gives that effect that you are wearing the most amazing ruffle skirt with I mean, that jumper is actually linen and cotton. It's gorgeous. So, but sorry, Kerry, what I'm trying to say is that it's those little things. You know, when we talk to our customers and they say, oh, you know, the big philosophy for us is about outfit building, and talking to people on our coffee morning today and saying, you know, the reason that print is in the collection is that the coral works perfect in the print, works perfectly well with the coral piece of knitwear. The little swoosh of green works perfectly well with something. So it's all of that thought that goes into it. So you know, people might think that you just go into factories and say, I'll have 10 of those and 10 of those. It's absolutely not the case. No. It takes quite a lot of thinking through and planning.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, because as I said, there's no reason why we can't all be fabulous over 50 or fabulous in midlife. So I really would like to thank you for that. And so just so people know how to find you, Nayna, how would they find you online?
Our website address is www.hopefashion.co.uk.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much. And thank you, Maggie and Jo, again. And hope you've enjoyed this week's show. And we really look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.